Okay, was that crazy or what? Oh my goodness. I cannot even imagine living through that experience. I I just I think I would be so full of fear if I were in a den with a bunch of lions. I am so challenged to respond the way Daniel did. Let's go back a little bit and let's talk about what got Daniel there in the first place. Okay. So, Daniel was actually an important man in his community in Babylon. He made a lot of decisions. The king looked to him for a lot of help. And so he was a leader and he was well respected. And this entire environment that he was in was not a godly environment. He didn't live in the place where the Israelites were supposed to be living. He was living in Babylon, which they worshiped so many different gods. They did not honor our God as the one and true God. So one of the things that community of people, that world of Babylon, one of the things is they ate all kinds of food that the Israelite people chose not to eat in honor of God, as respect for God's law. They were things that God had asked them not to eat, and they were obedient of that. So now Daniel's in an environment where the people around him can eat whatever they want. There are no rules about the food. But Daniel, he has rules. His God gave him guidelines to follow. And he's living in a place where there are no guidelines. Now, that's not something that really happens in our world. We don't have a lot of restrictions on our food, but we do find ourselves in situations when we are in a place where everybody around us is allowed to do something that we're really not allowed to do. I want to think about, for example, if you go to a friend's house and maybe at your friend's house, they're allowed to watch whatever kind of movies or whatever kind of videos they want. But you know, in your home, your parents have said, no, you're not allowed to watch that kind of movie, or you're not allowed to watch those kind of videos. So what happens when you find yourself at a friend's house and everybody around you is doing that? They're all going to watch this movie together. It is so difficult, isn't it, to say, I know that it's wrong for me to watch this video with these friends, but I also know that they're going to probably laugh at me or make fun of me, or I don't even really know what to do if everybody else is watching the video or the movie. What am I supposed to do? Those kinds of moments are kind of similar to what Daniel experienced. He had to decide, was he going to do what everybody else around him was doing? Or was he going to continue to honor the law that had been given to him? So it got a little worse, though. Daniel had chosen not to eat the food that he wasn't supposed to eat. And the other people that he worked with, who were very jealous of Daniel, because Daniel kind of got a lot of privilege. The king really liked him. And these other men were very jealous. They wanted the king to feel that way about them. And so they thought, well, here's what we'll do. We'll have the king make a law, and then Daniel will be forced to have to follow this law, because they know Daniel is going to pray at a certain time every day. Daniel's going to keep doing the things that the law has told him to do, and it's going to involve when he eats and what he eats and who he prays to. All of those things, he honored God with those decisions. So these men thought, we'll get the king to pass a law, and Daniel will have to break the law in order to please the king. And we'll make him choose. Either he'll get in trouble with the king because he won't give up doing what he knows is right with his God, or he'll disobey his God and he'll obey the king. Well, Daniel, of course, chooses to obey God. He chooses not to obey the king's new law. And the king, who loves Daniel, is forced into putting him in this punishment, in this lion's den, which is what they did with people who broke the king's law. So I'm thinking, here's Daniel. Okay, Daniel knows that if he obeys the new laws of the king, if he chooses to worship his God and pray to his God when at the time that he has always prayed to his God, if he chooses to continue living his lifestyle to honor his God, eating the foods that he knows he should eat and not eating the foods that he shouldn't, and not worshiping the king and not obeying all of the laws of the king that are opposite of the laws of his God, he knows that he could very well face consequences for that. And he chooses to obey God. And I want to believe, and I think that you'll agree with me, that he chooses to obey because he trusted. He trusted that his God was with him, would protect him, that his God was more powerful than any king that would ever be there. He trusted that his God would always come through for his people. He knew the history of the Israelites. He knew what his God had already done. And so because his trust was in God and not in King Darius, he was able to obey God and not King Darius. And that put him in a lion's den. We think if we obey God, God's going to protect us from every bad thing. We will never have a problem, but that's not always the way that it works out. Daniel's obedience to God led him to being in a lion's den, which the idea was that they were going to eat him up. The lions were just going to eat him up and he'd be gone. It's a terrible way. I can't even imagine. So here Daniel's thinking, I'm going to obey God because I trust him, and then because I've obeyed him, I'm going to be in a lion's den. And I find myself wondering what he was thinking. The Bible doesn't really tell us what Daniel was thinking. In this place, we see in Daniel chapter 6, if I start with verse 17, a stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Okay, he's in the den. He's not going anywhere. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him, and he could not sleep. So we know how King Darius was feeling. He was feeling guilty. He was feeling worried. He was feeling awful that his friend was going to be stuck with these lions all night, and he knew what was going to happen. But we don't know how Daniel was feeling. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in an anguished voice. Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel answered, May the king live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done anything wrong before you, your majesty. So we don't know how Daniel was feeling in that den, but we do know that he was protected. So we see King Darius made this decision, and it kind of tore him up. And Daniel made his decision, and he knew, like when that den rock was rolled away, I mean, I might have yelled, "What? Why did you do that to me, King Darius? I thought we were friends, bro." Like, he might have yelled that out, but instead he said, "No, don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm good. My God sent an angel." Almost like Daniel wasn't worried at all. I think Daniel's trust in God was so strong that he knew no matter what happened to him, God was ultimately in charge. God would take care of it the way God saw fit. And God saw fit that Daniel would be released and go back out and lead the people again. He led the people for quite a long time after this. Daniel teaches us some really important things. He teaches us that no matter what's happening around us, it is important for us to choose to trust God and not the people that we're with. And therefore, it's important that we obey God and not the people that we're with. Okay? And so when you're in a situation when everything around you is saying, this is okay for you to do, See, we're doing it. And you know deep down in your heart, it is not okay for you to do. It is so important that your heart be strong and that you hang on to what you know about God, that God is with you, that he is making a way for you, and that when we love him, we choose to show that love by obeying. We can put our trust in him, and we show our trust by obeying. Our obedience is really the only way we have to show that we love and that we trust. We can say those words all the time, but if we don't actually show it, then are we really feeling those things? And so we can show it by obeying, even when you think that your choice might end up leading you into an uncomfortable situation. Even if your decision to obey makes other people make fun of you, or maybe you don't get to have the friends that you'd like to have because they don't want to be around somebody who makes those decisions. We call that peer pressure, right? You've heard that before. You don't just do everything the people around you are doing. Just really think for yourself. But really, it's about trusting God and not trusting the people around you. So we go back to our hide and seek verse. Somebody's at my door and the dog is barking. So if you hear all that, I'm sorry. But our hide and seek verse of our morning and our unit is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. So Daniel showed us that he trusted God with all his heart, not his king, not the men he worked with, not the people around him. He trusted God with all his heart, and he chose to not lean on his own understanding, because his own understanding might have said, dude, you better do what the king is saying or you're going to be in trouble. But his own understanding didn't matter here. So he went back to trusting God. And because he trusted, he obeyed. And because he obeyed, God blessed him. God rescued him. God sent an angel in with him. And that was such a beautiful witness to the people around Daniel. They all saw. Even King Darius, do you remember how he talked, what he said to Daniel? Servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you? Darius knew that Daniel was loyal to God. Darius knew that Daniel would choose his God. And Darius also understood that his God would rescue Daniel. So it's important you show the people around you when you choose to do the right thing, no matter what, no matter who, no matter when. Other people see it and they respect you for it. All right. Well, I'm going to write down on the back of my hide and seek paper, I'm going to write Daniel. Daniel is such a beautiful and important example of what it looks like to trust and obey. Not just to trust, but to also obey. And so I ask the question, is trust a must? I think in order for us to obey, trust is a must. We cannot obey if we don't trust. And so one of the things we want to get settled in our hearts is that we do trust God. So I have some hide and seek questions for you today to go along with your verse. I want to think first of all, how could Daniel have leaned on his own understanding? Remember, the verse is telling us not to lean on our own understanding. What might Daniel have done if he did lean on his own understanding? What different choices might he have made if he had done that instead of trusting the Lord? And then the second question I have, we're not going to be able to answer it for sure because there's no way we can know, but I want to think about it with you, and I want you to talk about it with your family. Do you think Daniel trusted God when he was in the den? What do you think was happening in his heart? Do you think he was afraid? Or do you think he was saying, oh, okay, God, I don't know how, but I know that you're going to get me out of this somehow? Or was he saying, God, this might be the end of my life? I mean, he was 80 when he went in the lion's den. He had already lived a while. Maybe this is the end of my life, and maybe I get to see you now, and this is the way I go. What was Daniel thinking? We can't know for sure, but we can look at the decisions that Daniel made. We can look at the way he chose to live his life, and we can kind of piece together maybe where Daniel's heart was while he was in that den. So talk about it with your family. See what you all think. I have a few other resources on the resource page for you. Some of these, Daniel's in the Lion's Den is a really exciting story. And so you can find so many resources for this. If you just search Daniel in the Lion's Den, there are a lot of fun things. But one of the lesson resources I gave you has this really cool little pattern for you to make a lion like costume, I guess. Make you look like a lion. So if you can print that out and color it, and then you could make yourself look like a lion, take a picture and I want to see it. Send it to me. I want to see the picture of you as a lion. Maybe you could even do a video and I could hear your very best lion roar. Some of you I know would probably frighten me with your roars. They're good. All right, my kiddos, be thinking about Daniel this week. Be thinking about what it takes to obey. It does take courage, but before we can even have courage, we have to have trust. And so we are working on getting our hearts in a place where we just trust God no matter what, no matter who, and no matter where. All right, I love you all. I'll see you, well, you'll see me on Wednesday, and I hope that you're doing well. Take care. Bye-bye.